Hollywood is awash with glitz and glory, filled with faces celebrated as if immortal. But for Clint Eastwood, not everyone deserves to stand in that light. Some names alone make him furrow his brow, people who once stepped into his world and dared to challenge the authority he built. Shut up, or there's no place for you. That cold warning marks the final line between patience and Eastwood's true rage. The man who has lived his life amid the sounds of gunfire and the glare of film sets knows how to smile in the face of backstabs, how to endure malicious rumors. Yet some have crossed the ultimate line. Those he once called colleagues, even friends, suddenly turned, spitting out cutting words. Eastwood is just an ordinary director, nothing special. Then there are the younger stars, arrogantly thinking themselves wiser, daring to call him a grumpy old man, as if they understand this world better than the one who shaped an entire cinematic landscape. At 95, Eastwood still holds a bitter sting when he recalls them directors, Hollywood stars who shattered his trust, people he despises to the very end. Who are they? Why dare they challenge the man all of Hollywood fears? Let's uncover the 7 names Clint Eastwood hates most, along with the deep-seated reasons behind these unresolved grudges. 1. Leonardo DiCaprio, the arrogant star who wouldn't listen. When Eastwood cast DiCaprio in the lead role of J. Edgar 2011, everything initially seemed promising. DiCaprio was an A-list star and Eastwood a legendary director. Expectations were high, but tensions arose from the very start of production due to Eastwood's unique working style. On the first day of shooting, the atmosphere was taut. Eastwood stood behind the camera like a seasoned gunslinger, famous for his one-take only philosophy, no repeats, no waste, because the first take is always the most genuine. He faced Leonardo DiCaprio, 36, who had spent months researching Hoover and even reduced his salary from $20 million to $2 million to embody the role perfectly. With aged makeup, false teeth, and a stretched nose, prosthetic DiCaprio was ready. But he also carried a notorious perfectionism. Every scene had to be polished to the finest detail. During a crucial scene, DiCaprio fully in character as Hoover delivered an emotional monologue about FBI power. As Eastwood silently nodded and prepared to move on, DiCaprio raised his hand, adrenaline shaking his voice. "Clint, I think we should do it again. I can do better just one more time." Eastwood, behind the camera, furrowed his brow. He tilted his head and growled in a low voice. "You did fine, Leo. We don't need another take. Move on." DiCaprio face, flushed under the heavy makeup, stepped closer. "Clint, I know I can push the emotion deeper. Just one take, I beg you." The set fell silent. The lighting and sound crew exchanged glances, sensing a brewing storm. Eastwood crossed his arms, eyes cold as ice. "Leo, I'm not here for experiments. You want to redo, fine, but I won't run the film." He turned to the cameraman, voice dry. "Don't film it. Let him rehearse alone if he wants." DiCaprio froze as if slapped, then turned and walked straight off the set, leaving the crew in silence. "Who does he think I am?" "A B-list actor," he muttered, fists clenched in the makeup room. He had poured sweat, blood, and passion into this role, only to be treated like an amateur. In the following days, tension remained high. Eastwood, with his signature cowboy demeanor, continued directing his way. He often said, "in your own time," instead of action, and refused any requests for retakes, even when DiCaprio pleaded. During an action scene, Eastwood unexpectedly punched a stuntman to teach DiCaprio and Armie Hammer how to fight for real. "Hit like it's real," Leo Eastwood barked from the director's chair. "Don't act like you're in a commercial." DiCaprio, trying to immerse himself in the role, felt restrained. He whispered to Judi Dench, playing Hoover's mother, "How can she put up with this guy? One take only, I need space to perform." Dench, with a gentle smile, replied Leo with, "Clint, one take is all you get. You'll get used to it." But DiCaprio couldn't. Every suggestion he made, Eastwood would shrug. "Go ahead, Leo. Don't complicate it." Tension peaked when DiCaprio realized that some of the scenes he asked to redo weren't even filmed exactly as Eastwood had threatened. In the green room, he yelled at his manager, "I've sacrificed everything for this role, money, time, even my health. And he treats me like this. I swear, I'll never work with Clint Eastwood again." After J. Edgar DiCaprio never looked back. In 2012, when Eastwood invited him to star in A Star is Born, the ambitious remake, DiCaprio immediately declined, choosing Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained, instead a director who gave him freedom to explore the role. In 2019, when Eastwood contacted DiCaprio and Jonah Hill for The Ballad of Richard Jewell, both declined without specifying a reason. But in Hollywood, everyone understood the memory of J. Edgar still haunted. When asked about DiCaprio in a rare film comment interview, Eastwood merely smirked. "Leo's a good actor, but he likes to complicate everything. I don't have time for that." His words, though light, carried the pride of a man who shaped Hollywood on his own terms. DiCaprio, in contrast, remained silent. He never publicly criticized Eastwood, but close friends said he still felt anger whenever J. Edgar was mentioned, a grudge that lasted a lifetime. Yet the tension between Eastwood and DiCaprio was only the beginning. There were others he despised even more enough to confront directly. 2. Spike Lee, the man who had to be told to shut up. In 2008, at the Cannes Film Festival, a fiery clash erupted between two Hollywood giants, Clint Eastwood, the hero of westerns and war films, and Spike Lee, the director known for his piercing portrayals of black life and American society. Their conflict wasn't personal. It was a collision of worldviews. One believed in telling history, as it was the other believed history should be told inclusively, highlighting forgotten voices. Spike Lee publicly criticized Eastwood over his two Iwo Jima films, Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima. In Lee's eyes, the films were blanks in Hollywood's historical depiction, erasing black soldiers who fought. Clint Eastwood made two films about Iwo Jima, and not a single black person appears, Lee told the press at Cannes, voice sharp with disappointment and challenge. Black soldiers fought and died there, but in his eyes, they didn't exist. A month later, in the dim office of Malpaso Productions, Eastwood faced a Guardian journalist. He sipped coffee, eyes cutting like knives when Lee's name came up. "What's he saying about me, that I erased black soldiers from Iwo Jima?" He smirked low, and commanding Flags of Our Fathers is about that flag-raising photo. The people in it weren't black. I told the story I read. It's the truth. A guy like Spike Lee should shut up. Eastwood didn't stop there, recalling the past. With irony, he complained when I made Bird about Charlie Parker. "How can a white guy make a film about black jazz? Funny, I was the only one who did it with 90% black actors. And now he wants me to change Iwo Jima. Who does he think he is telling, a grumpy old man what to do?" Eastwood's words hit like a gunshot. Across headlines, "Shut up" became the story. In New York, Lee read the interview, blood boiling. "This isn't the first time some white guy tells me to shut up," he recalled, thinking of his Brooklyn civil rights days. The feud didn't end there. In a subsequent interview, Lee appeared in his trademark baseball cap voice, shaking with anger. "First, Clint Eastwood isn't my father, and we're not on a slave plantation anymore. He's a talented director, fine. He makes his films, I make mine. But telling me to shut up. Come on, Clint. He's the grumpy old man here." Lee slammed his hand on the table, eyes blazing. "I'm not criticizing him for personal reasons. I speak for black soldiers erased from history. Clint thinks he can retell Witu while ignoring them. That's not history, it's propaganda." Eastwood remained unmoved. At another press conference, asked about Lee's reaction, he shrugged coldly. If Spike wants to make a film about black soldiers, go ahead. I'm not stopping him. But don't tell me how to make my film. I tell my story, and I don't apologize for it. The summer-long war of words divided Hollywood. Some sided with Lee, claiming Eastwood lacked racial sensitivity. Others defended Eastwood, arguing he stayed true to historical documents. By September, at a Lakers game, Lee ran into Steven Spielberg, producer of both Iwo Jima films and Lee's close friend. Under the arena lights, Lee sighed to Spielberg. "Steven, my business with Clint is over. I don't want to extend it." Spielberg diplomatically called Eastwood that evening. "Clint's Spike means no harm. He just wants the story told fully," he explained. Eastwood in his Carmel home paused, then replied, "All right, Steven. If Spike wants to bury it, I won't dig it up." Later, Lee sent him a copy of Miracle at St. Anna privately as a gesture of truce, but they never met to shake hands. Since that fiery dispute, Eastwood completely cut ties with Spike Lee. He never looked at Lee at any events, even when both appeared at award shows or festivals. On several occasions, the press noted Eastwood walking out as Lee took the stage, eyes cold, expressionless, as if Lee never existed. For Eastwood, it wasn't just personal anger. It was a boundary, a declaration that he would never forgive anyone daring to insult his filmmaking. From that day on, a frozen distance remained between them for years, a wound in Hollywood that never healed. What do you think about this intense feud? Share your thoughts in the comments below. But Eastwood isn't just a gentle director. He's also had confrontations with one of Hollywood's biggest stars, Leonardo DiCaprio. 3. Michael Moore, the man Eastwood threatened with a gun. It all started with bowling for Columbine Moore's Oscar-winning documentary that sharply questioned America's gun culture. In a controversial scene, Moore unexpectedly shows up at Charlton Heston's home, Hollywood legend and NRA president. Camera in hand, Moore questioned Heston about the NRA's responsibility after the Columbine shooting. Heston, frail and battling Alzheimer's, struggled under the camera. Many were outraged, including Eastwood. In a dimly lit room in Los Angeles, Eastwood watched the footage, fists clenched. Who does this guy think he is, barging into someone's house like that? For Eastwood, a staunch defender of gun rights and personal values, Moore's action was a direct insult. Heston deserved respect, not to be exploited when he couldn't defend himself, he told a close friend, eyes flashing with anger. So at the 2005 ceremony, Eastwood stood at the podium. Black suit, fitted silver hair, eyes still sharp. He looked over the crowd, pausing as his gaze landed on Moore. A wry smile appeared, but it wasn't friendly. He growled, slow and heavy. "Michael Moore and I, we have something in common. We both love free speech in this country." Laughter rippled through the audience, but the air froze as he continued. "But if you step up to my door with that camera, Michael, I will kill you." A nervous laugh came from Moore, but his face went pale. Eastwood leaned toward the microphone, voice lower as if speaking directly to Moore. "I'm serious." The audience went silent. Moore, sitting below, felt blood rush to his head. "He just threatened me in front of 1,000 people." Moore thought, gripping the chair. He knew Eastwood wasn't joking. A man who had gunned down dozens of on-screen villains was now staring at him like a target. After the ceremony, Moore rushed out, calling his manager. "Clint Eastwood just openly threatened to kill me. He's insane. I've been threatened by crazy people since making Bowling, and now this old cowboy," Moore shouted, trembling with anger and fear. Memories of prior bomb threats from NRA supporters flared, and Eastwood's words added fuel to the fire. 10 years later, the feud resurfaced with American Sniper Eastwood's film about Navy SEAL sniper Chris Kyle. Widely praised, Moore disagreed. On Twitter, he wrote, "My uncle was killed by a German sniper, and we didn't call them heroes. They were cowards shooting from afar." He called American Sniper a mess rewriting history, implying Eastwood glorified war. The message spread like wildfire. At CinemaCon that year, Eastwood, now 85 but still sharp, was asked about Moore's criticism. He smirked, voice laced with irony. "People say I threatened Michael Moore. Not true." He paused, eyes twinkling mischievously. "But I'll admit that wasn't a bad idea." The crowd laughed while Moore seethed with fear and anger across the country. Through the years, Eastwood has maintained his stance. He defends his films and dismisses Moore's criticisms as ignorance. To witnesses, the Feud represents a clash of extremes ideals versus perspective art versus politics praise versus critique intense and dangerous enough to make all of Hollywood take notice. Indeed, Clint Eastwood is a tough old man. Even John Wayne, one of Hollywood's most famous stars, couldn't stand him. 4. John Wayne, the confrontation between two legends. They were both legends in the Western genre. But Clint Eastwood and John Wayne there existed a simmering yet deep-seated conflict between them, stemming from their very views on the cowboy world. It all began with High Plains Drifter 1973, a film directed by and starring Eastwood. In the movie, his character, a mysterious avenger, burns an entire town for revenge with violent imagery and morally ambiguous actions. The film was a success. But somewhere in California, John Wayne, the star of Stagecoach and The Searchers, sat in a smoke-filled room watching the film with a face flushed with anger. To Wayne, the West symbolized courage and the pioneers who built America. Eastwood's High Plains Drifter to him was an insult. Wayne grabbed a pen and wrote a handwritten letter to Eastwood. "What were you thinking making that film?" He wrote, his handwriting trembling with anger. "The West is not a place for guys like you to paint it as nothingness. The pioneers were real men, brave men, and you have disgraced them." The letter ended with a sharp line. "That is not a cowboy film. That is garbage." Eastwood received the letter at the Malpaso Productions office, squinting as if preparing to draw his gun in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. He read each line, then tossed the letter onto the desk, his deep voice resonating through the empty room. "John Wayne thinks he's someone king of Hollywood. He doesn't understand this era." Shortly after, in an interview when asked about Wayne, he smirked. John Wayne lived in his own world, where every cowboy was a hero. Every story had a happy ending, he said with sarcasm. "I don't make films to glorify fake legends. I make films to tell the truth. The West is blood, dirt, and pain. If he can't handle it, that's his problem, not mine." The conflict didn't end there. In 1975, a promising script titled The Hostiles reached both of them. Screenwriter Larry Cohen dreamed of a grand western where Eastwood, as a young cunning gambler, would clash and collaborate with Wayne as an aging vengeful cowboy. Eastwood, then at his peak with The Outlaw, Josie Wales read the script and smiled. "This could be my chance to show that old man how I make movies," he said to his associates, full of confidence. But Wayne aboard his yacht, Wild Goose, only glanced at the script before throwing it into the sea. "What is this mess?" he shouted at his agent, full of disdain. "I won't work with some guy like Eastwood who thinks the West is a joke. He doesn't respect what we built." That answer closed all opportunities for collaboration between the two legends. Wayne, who saw himself as the guardian of America's classic values, regarded Eastwood as a symbol of the rebellious generation, those who had distorted the cowboy image he spent his life preserving. Eastwood, on the other hand, believed old-school heroes were outdated, that real people in the West weren't simply right or wrong, but lived in moral gray areas where violence and justice intertwined. This philosophical difference ensured they never found common ground. When Wayne passed away in 1979, Eastwood never spoke harshly of him, but he also never hid that he was hurt by Wayne's treatment. In his life, Clint Eastwood has despised many famous figures, including Jack Nicholson, a person Eastwood considered a lifelong rival. 5. Jack Nicholson, rigid acting that irritated Eastwood. Deep inside Eastwood, there was always a simmering flame of irritation when it came to Jack Nicholson, the star with a mischievous smile and eccentric style. Eastwood once watched The Missouri Breaks, 1976, a Western starring Nicholson, and could not contain his disappointment. He called it a ridiculous Western, criticizing the convoluted script and Nicholson's performance as stiff, lacking seriousness. Eastwood's annoyance stemmed from a strong belief that Westerns must carry a spirit of authenticity, harshness, reflecting values of resilience and honor. In his eyes, Nicholson, with his flamboyant acting and free-spirited demeanor in The Missouri Breaks, seemed to be turning the genre into a joke. In a 1977 interview, when asked about new Western films, Eastwood did not hesitate to criticize. He found Nicholson hopping through action scenes with a half-smile as an insult to the cowboy image he had spent his life building. Feeling betrayed by a colleague who should have understood the value of the genre made Eastwood increasingly distant from Nicholson, avoiding him at Hollywood events, even though they had crossed paths at glamorous parties. When both were considered for a joint project, The Hawkline Monster in the late 1980s, a fantasy western directed by Tim Burton, Eastwood, already disliking Nicholson, flatly refused, knowing he would take the remaining lead role. He told Burton that he could not work with a guy who acts as if he's joking with the audience. Nicholson, hearing this through mutual friends, felt deeply insulted. Though the project was eventually canceled, the incident deepened the rift between them. This grudge was never publicly spoken of, but it smoldered in Eastwood's heart. He continued making his own westerns, such as Unforgiven, as a response proving that the genre could be profound and authentic. Every time he saw Nicholson on screen, from The Shining to Batman, Eastwood would merely smirk, thinking he only knows how to put on a show. In his later years, sitting in a cigar-filled room, Eastwood still did not forgive Nicholson. In a conversation with a close friend, he whispered in a voice deep as desert wind, "I don't hate many people, but there are those who make me lose faith in this craft." Nicholson to Eastwood was a symbol of unseriousness, a blemish on his memory of the Western Golden Age. 6. Morgan Freeman, the bold actor who tried to lecture him. The conflict between Morgan Freeman and Eastwood began during preparations for Million Dollar Baby. Eastwood invited Freeman, who had previously worked well with him, because Morgan brings the depth I need. But Freeman, a supporter of the Democratic Party and progressive values, began to feel uneasy with Eastwood's authoritarian style. During a script reading, Freeman suggested adding some details to highlight the character Scrap, emphasizing his painful past. Eastwood, seated at the head of the table, frowned and cut him off. "Morgan, the script is good enough. Just act as it's written and we'll finish quickly." Tension erupted during a crucial scene where Freeman's Scrap comforts Eastwood's Frankie after a tragedy. Freeman, meticulous by nature, wanted to try multiple takes to convey deep emotion. After the first take, he approached Eastwood calm but firm. "Clint, I think we should try again. I can do better, adding a little more pain to the eyes." Eastwood, standing behind the camera, smirked, his eyes cold. "Morgan, you did fine. I don't need more pain or anything else. We're not here to make art films." "Move on," his voice rang like a command, silencing the entire crew. Freeman, losing his composure for the first time, stepped closer to Eastwood's voice. Lowered Clint. "I'm not a rookie for you to order around. I know what I'm doing." Then, in 2012, during a heated U.S. presidential election, Eastwood publicly endorsed Mitt Romney through the Halftime in America ad with a deep, persuasive voice. Freeman, a staunch Obama supporter, responded with the "Believe in the Power" ad praising Obama's achievements. These ads dubbed a dueling ads battle by the press, fanned the flames further. At a Hollywood party, Freeman heard that Eastwood criticized his ad as Democratic propaganda. He called a mutual friend furious. "Clint thinks he can lecture me about politics. He lives in his own world where everything must follow his way." Eastwood, upon hearing this, through an associate, laughed dismissively. "Morgan is a great actor, but he should know his place. Politics is not his playground, and he cannot beat me at this game." The tension between Eastwood and Freeman, though never erupting publicly, was a battle of two massive egos. Eastwood, with his authoritarian directing style and belief that he was the center of every project, would not accept anyone challenging his authority, even someone like Freeman, who had proven talent through numerous roles. Freeman, proud of his Oscar-winning work and progressive views, refused to submit to Eastwood's one-take method. Political differences merely served as a catalyst, deepening the rift. In Eastwood's eyes, Freeman was a challenger, while Freeman saw Eastwood as a stubborn, conservative, disrespectful of an actor's creativity. Though civil in public, and with million-dollar baby earning Freeman an Oscar, the underlying tension never died. After Invictus 2009, their final collaboration, Eastwood and Freeman never worked together again. Freeman, in a private chat, once told friends Clint is an excellent director, but working with him is like going through hell. He wants to control everything, and I am not the type to bow down. Finally, another figure Eastwood deeply disliked was the star Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman, the invisible gap that drew them apart. On screen, they truly ignited. Off-screen, they barely spoke a word. In 1992, Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman created Unforgiven, together a film that redefined the Western genres and swept the Oscars. To audiences, it was a legendary collaboration, two icons redefining the modern cowboy. But behind the weighty frames and cold stares, a simmering flame burned the flame of two strong egos, neither willing to yield. And that flame would gradually challenge Clint Eastwood's steel control more than any gunfight he had ever directed. Clint Eastwood always ran his sets like a perfectly wound Swiss watch. No noise, no rushing, everything operated in silence, focus, and respect. For him, the word action was the only command needed. Gene Hackman, on the other hand, was the complete opposite, impulsive, intense living for challenges. He refused constraints. While Eastwood demanded absolute discipline, Hackman brought disruption. And when these extremes collided, tension was inevitable. From the first week of shooting Unforgiven, the atmosphere thickened. Hackman did not easily accept direction. He interrupted Eastwood mid-session, questioned camera angles, even suggested rewriting certain lines. A crew member recalled in a key scene, Hackman stopped midway, turned to the director and said, "That line isn't right. I'm not saying it that way." The entire crew held their breath. Eastwood simply stared at Hackman for a long moment, calm yet cold, then responded softly, "You'll do fine." Eastwood later retaliated. In a pivotal scene, Hackman playing Little Bill faced Eastwood's William Money. The scene was tense. Little Bill taunted Money Hackman, acting with sharp eyes and a provocative tone. When Eastwood called cut, he approached Hackman, voice deep and sharp as a knife. "Gene, you did well, but don't try to outdo me. This is my film, and I am in charge." Hackman, unfazed, stood straight, looking Eastwood in the eyes. "Clint, I'm not here to play second fiddle. If you want a vivid villain, let me do my job." The set seemed frozen. The lighting and sound crew stepped back, sensing the storm about to erupt. Eastwood smirked coldly. "You want to go deep? Fine, but don't waste my time. One take is enough, Gene. I won't repeat myself." Then in 1997, when Eastwood invited Hackman to absolute power to play a corrupt president, they clashed again. Hackman, now a legend with 2 Oscars, felt insulted when Eastwood asked him to act faster in a crucial scene. In the dressing room, Hackman shouted to his agent, "Clint treats me like a B-list actor. Does he think he can control me just because he's the director?" They never argued publicly, but everyone felt the invisible gap between them. When cameras stopped, they separated. No conversation, no shared drink. Respect existed, but no warmth. Eastwood, who often praised his co-star's professionalism, rarely mentioned Hackman afterward. Hackman in later years never spoke of Clint either. They created a masterpiece together, but it ended there. When Unforgiven won at the Oscars, they walked on stage to audience applause. But their gazes never met. To the world, they were victors. To each other, two mountains unable to share the same horizon. After that night, Eastwood never hired Hackman again, never called him a favorite collaborator. When asked about the film, he mentioned Morgan Freeman, Richard Harris. But Hackman's name was almost erased. Those close to the set said the respect between them was real, but the relationship was irreparably broken. Too many egos, too many clashes, and in Eastwood's world, once trust shatters, everything ends. Hackman retired shortly after, while Eastwood continued shaping his cinematic world with actors he could trust completely. At 95, Clint Eastwood's life and health. At 95, Clint Eastwood still lives as he directed slowly, precisely, never letting time control him. In his wooden house, overlooking the sea in Carmel by the Sea, he starts each morning with a cup of black coffee, walking slowly to the porch, watching the morning mist cover the old pines. People say he is the last icon of classic Hollywood, but to Eastwood he is simply an old man with work to do. "If one day I wake up and no longer want to tell stories that might be when I'm truly old," he once said. Even at an age many call a living legend, Eastwood retains his calm, firm demeanor, like his cowboy roles. He still reads scripts, notes every small detail, and works with astonishing precision. Close friends say he exercises, regularly eats simply no alcohol, no smoking. He lives as if he's always preparing to shoot another film. In fact, Eastwood is still nurturing a new film project, asserting that he is not done with this world. But beneath that calm exterior is an unfillable void. In 2024, Christina Sandra, his longtime partner of nearly 2 decades, passed away. That loss made Eastwood more reserved. He seldom appears in public, spending most of his time in his wooden house with children and grandchildren visiting frequently. His son, Scott Eastwood, once said, "My father doesn't complain. He grieves in his own way, quietly, resiliently, like an old soldier facing memories. Neighbors in Carmel say they still see him driving his old car, shopping locally, or sitting alone at a familiar cafe gazing at the sea. He speaks little, but when someone recognizes him and greets him, he smiles, nods slightly still. Clint Eastwood of America, only with deeper, heavier eyes. Without Christina by his side, he has never been truly alone. His family, 8 children from multiple relationships, visits often, and they are the reason he remains standing at 95. For Eastwood, longevity is not a miracle, but discipline. He lives, simply eats, moderately, meditates, and keeps his mind busy. When asked the secret to a long life, he just laughs. Don't let anyone tell you you're past your prime. When they do, make another movie. It is not just a saying, but a life philosophy, a stubborn belief that a person only truly ages when they stop being passionate. Clint Eastwood, the man of silence, but behind that calm exterior lies a list of names he never wants to meet again. From colleagues challenging his authority, obstinate directors to young stars who showed no respect for the craft, they all experienced his coldness. Eastwood simply erased them from his world permanently. Perhaps it is that firmness that makes him both respected and feared. In the noisy world of Hollywood, Eastwood chooses silence, but that silence carries more weight than any curse. What about you? Do you admire Clint Eastwood The man who lives by principle uncompromising? Or do you find him too cold in this emotional entertainment world? Share your thoughts below. And if you love behind-the-scenes stories of Hollywood legends, don't forget to subscribe to catch secrets, rivalries, and the most genuine moments of the greatest stars in the world. Thank you for joining us.